and welcome to part 2 of Connecting the Unknown. This part will cover all of the connections in episode 1 that happen after the prologue. Again, if you have not finished Over the Garden Wall, this is your spoiler warning. If you would like to catch up on what I've said so far, feel free to check out part 1 of Connecting the Unknown on this channel. While the prologue is generally straightforward with its connections, I hope the following parts in this series will reveal new information for longtime fans. Since episode 1 is not as connection-dense as the prologue, I will be fast-forwarding over parts of the episode that do not have any noteworthy connections to the other parts of the series. Thank you for joining me, and let's get going with part 2. After the prologue, we see Beatrice up in a tree on the lookout for a child to bring to Adelaide. The owl here makes another appearance in episode 8, where it scares Beatrice away during a thunderstorm. These 3 creepy squirrels that are wearing bow ties for whatever reason are the same squirrels that appear at the end of episode 3.
I can leave a trail of candy from my pants!
Greg earned the candy stored in his pants on Halloween by working for Old Lady Daniels, which is explained in episode 9.
I was helping Old Lady Daniels rake some leaves in exchange for candy!
Here we have Wirt's first poem of the show.
Though I am lost, my wounded heart resides back home, in pieces strewn about the graveyard of my lost love. For only...
As he states in episode 5, he has a weird habit of reciting poetry.
And I secretly whisper poetry to myself in my room at night.
Apparently, Wirt's poetry is not just limited to the confines of his room. The woodsman here is gathering oil for the dark lantern by cutting down an edelwood tree. You may notice how the edelwood tree is hollow. This may explain why only the small branches are used to create the special lantern oil throughout the show. Here Greg carefully places candy on 2 different objects, the first being the black turtle, and the second being Wirt's cape. The candy on Wirt's cape is later used to lure the monster dog off of the mill's roof, while the candy attached to the black turtle reappears later when it is regurgitated by the dog. Here we are shown the episode title's namesake, the Old Grist Mill, which was originally Beatrice's home as shown in the epilogue. The woodsman says,
I found this homestead abandoned and repurposed its mill for my needs.
Which would make sense since Beatrice and her family were all turned into bluebirds. It also explains why their dog would still be near the mill and be hungry enough to eat a black turtle, since I imagine the newly turned bluebird family would have a very hard time feeding a dog. The mill itself contains a considerable amount of bluebird imagery, further solidifying the connection of Beatrice to this location. Bluebirds appear on the mantelpiece, by the stairs, and even on the bag of potatoes later in the episode. These 2 broken sticks stay under that couch futon thing until episode 10 when the woodsman is desperately looking for edelwood to fuel the dark lantern.
This guy sounds loony. Maybe we should make a break for it, if we can. But he must know the woods really well, so we may need to knock him out first.
You can tell that Greg stops listening to Wirt at this point because of the careful way Greg's eyes are animated. After the woodsman cautions the brothers about the beast, Greg is so focused on Wirt's plan that he starts giving filler answers to Wirt every time he detects a pause in his brother's monologue.
Yeah!
Here Greg is testing out objects for their weight and bludgeoning power to see which would work best to knock out the woodsman. The third object Greg tests is also displayed next to human Beatrice in the epilogue in episode 10. Here we are blessed with Wirt's second poem of the show. In the first half, Wirt specifically says,
Sometimes I feel like I'm just like a boat upon a winding river.
An uncannily similar phrase is used during his duet with Lorna in episode 7.
Where are you going?
Here we are,
The 2 of us
like ships upon a winding river.
Okay, for this next connection I might be looking way too much into it, but here goes. In the latter half of Wirt's second poem, Wirt says,
Twisting towards an endless black sea. Further and further, drifting away from where I want to be, who I want to be.
This idea of one's identity being connected to knowing one's own location is brought up in a very similar way by Quincy Endicott in episode 5, when he says,
Why, this house is so big, I sometimes don't even know where or who I am.
They both even do similar hand gestures while saying that. Next we get the first of the infamous rock facts.
Did you know that if you soak a raisin in grape juice, it turns into a grape? It's a rock fact!
There is a second rock fact in episode 8, and a third and final rock fact in episode 10, but I will talk about those when we get to them.
Why don't you go play with your frog or something?
Ah, Beans, where is that frog o' mine? Hold on there a second, brother o' mine. I'll be back soon for your plan.
Yeah, Greg, your frog left earlier when you were busy swinging stuff around. Also, we find out in episode 4 Greg's relation to Wirt thanks to Wirt's beautiful singing.
My name is Wirt and his name is Greg. We're related cause my mom remarried and then gave birth to him with my stepdad.
The woodsman here is using the edelwood sticks he collected earlier to make oil for the dark lantern. We see him attempt this process once again in episode 10, only in episode 10 the mill is broken. The monster dog has the same colored eyes as the beast in episode 10. These are the only 2 characters in the series that possess these types of eyes. Greg enters the scene wearing the remains of the barrel he was just hiding in and exclaims,
"Holy moly, hot dog!"
gesturing to the monster dog behind him. It is revealed later in episode 3 that Greg believed hot dogs were the same things as dogs.
So my theory is, hot dogs are not actually dogs, regardless of what they teach in school.
That's why he refers to the monster dog as a hot dog in this moment.
This chrysalis is all it is, huh?
Yeah, Greg completely missed the memo to cancel the plan and went ahead with it anyways. Again, there's the bluebird on the potato bag. The same brand of potatoes also appears in episode 3. There's the piece of candy on Wirt's cape from earlier in the episode, and there's the piece of candy on the turtle from earlier in the episode as well. Again, this is Beatrice's dog as shown in the prologue and in the epilogue. If you want to think about this way too much, which of course you do, this is the first of 4-ish times that the brothers fall into a river. The second time is in episode 7 when they are fleeing from possessed Lorna. The third-ish time is during episode 8 when Wirt breaks through the ice looking for Greg. And the fourth time is in episode 9 when the brothers tumble down the hill to avoid the black train.
Ain't that just the way?
Greg says this iconic phrase one more time in episode 7 when Wirt is looking for shelter from the rain.
Wirt. Ain't that just the way?
After the woodsman explains that the dog is not the beast, he describes what the beast is and includes an interesting detail.
He is the death of hope. He steals the children.
The woodsman is talking here from personal experience. As we find out in episodes 7 and 10, the woodsman believed the beast placed his daughter's soul in the lantern.
Don't you care about keeping the lantern lit? Don't you care about your daughter's soul?
She was never in the lantern, was she, beast?
Here at the end of episode 1, it ends exactly how it began, with Beatrice looking down on them, foreshadowing her addition to the cast in the following episode. In the credits, Jack Jones is listed as 3 question marks due to the narrator's true identity not being revealed yet. Since Greg begins the episode by discussing the worst names for the frog, I thought it would be fun to end this part with all the names the frog is given throughout the series. Here is Greg's list of worst names.
Antelope Guggenheim, Albert Salami, Giggly Jumpy Tom Thomas Tambourine, Legface McCullen, Artichoke, Penguin Pete Steve. But I think the very worst name for this frog is...
Wait a second.
And we never get to hear what Greg considers the very worst name. Greg's valiant quest to come up with the perfect frog name goes through a total of 13 iterations across the series.
Now where did that frog named Kitty go? I'm gonna call him Wirt. My frog's name's Wirt Jr. What's with George Washington being naked? It's 'cause the president is nude. You done good, Mr. President. Benjamin Franklin! Paging Dr. Cucumber! You can have it back after Greg Jr. goes to the bathroom. Not you, Skipper. Will you take care of Ronald for me?
Come on, guy. We gotta get Jason Funderburker home.
Wirt contributes 2 pseudonyms himself, including the final chosen name. Thank you for joining me for part 2 of Connecting the Unknown. I hope you learned something new, and if there's anything you would like to bring to my attention, please leave a comment and I will be sure to look into it. Also, if there are any new connections you didn't know about before watching this video, let me know what they were in the comments. That's one of my favorite parts about making this series. Now that we have all of episode 1 covered, part 3 of Connecting the Unknown will be about episode 2 of Over the Garden Wall, so feel free to stay tuned for that.